and Iraq. President Obama met with defense leaders from his anti-ISIS coalition, most of whom are desperately trying to defeat the terror group while desperately trying to avoid the political fallout from committing ground forces. Here's Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry.
In the heaviest day of shelling yet over the key city of Kobani, the U.S.-led coalition conducted 21 airstrikes along the Turkish border, U.S. fighter jets flying below the clouds because of rain. The strikes slowing ISIS, though the militants are still on the march inside Syria. And in Iraq today, ISIS surrounded yet another town west of Baghdad with a military base, Khan al-Baghdadi, as they edge closer to total control of the strategically important Anbar province.
The fact of the matter is ISIS is still advancing despite 2 months of airstrikes, and those airstrikes haven't been nearly as effective as they can be because we have failed to put air-ground controllers with the force on the ground that could guide those airstrikes.
The dire situation on the ground came as President Obama met with military chiefs from more than 20 U.S. allies at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. After touting several successes in pushing ISIS back in the early days, the president acknowledged he was deeply concerned about Kobani in Syria and Anbar province in Iraq.
As with any military effort, there will be days of progress and there are going to be periods of setback.
That admission came one day after ISIS seized an Iraqi military base near the town of Hit, significant since it's on the main artery to the capital of Baghdad.
Are we winning?
Well, again, we're talking about a coalition of 60 nations that are working closely with Iraqi security forces and working to build up Syrian opposition fighters, and there is no doubt that we can point to the success in the early days of this strategy.
The claims of success run counter to what even the president's liberal allies are saying, with Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson today demanding to know what the president thinks the bombs are accomplishing. Robinson writing, quote, "It's not too soon to state the obvious. At this point, the war against the Islamic State can be seen only as failing. I'm not sure whether the president and his aides are guilty of optimism or self-delusion." And along the Syrian-Turkish border, Fox's Greg Palkot is seeing mixed progress.
We have just witnessed another U.S. coalition airstrike on the western side of Kobani. We are told there have been multiple strikes in the last several hours, and they might be having an effect. That ISIS black flag of terror that we've been showing you for the past week on top of the hill on the eastern side of town, it is gone. Sources tell us it was taken out by a coalition airstrike. However, ISIS is hanging in there. In the center of town, even to the southwest of the city, we have spotted, barely visible, another black ISIS flag.
And Secretary of State John Kerry today did some cleanup work of Susan Rice's comments that there was a deal with Turkey to use their bases to train Syrian rebels and potentially launch airstrikes. Kerry says there's no discrepancy, though Turkish officials say there's still no deal. Meanwhile, President Erdogan gave a bizarre speech attacking the West and appearing to endorse some of ISIS's plans. Brett?
Doesn't sound cleared up to me. Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. Still